And with a 3, 2, and recording on Wednesday, December 13th, 2023 at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time with perhaps the only guest I've had that sounds more Irish than me is Feargus O'Connor Greenwood. I'm Thomas Patrick Carrigan. I normally think I take the cake for that, but I think you just took the number one spot. So guess I'll step aside. I guess this is your show now. I've betrayed my Irish ancestry and I have been
Well,
usurped. So
I wouldn't go that far, Tommy, because actually there's no Irish connection in our family
I figured
lineage.
it was what, Scottish, English or some shit.
No, no, it's Irish, but it comes through. Actually, there's a bit of a story behind it because you've got to go back to the Chartist movement in the UK, in England, to about 1840, and they were trying to gain the vote for the working class man and other benefits. And there was an Irish lawyer who came over to England called Feargus O'Connor, and he was very well respected. He was one of the leading lights in the movement, a great orator. And cut a long story short, when he died in 1855, 40,000 people attended his funeral.
Jeez.
Yeah. So you can see what impact he'd had. And so I was looking through the family tree and thinking, hang on, why have we suddenly got the Irish names appear? Because there doesn't seem to be any Irish connections. And then we worked out that what was happening, obviously, people had big families back in those days, and out of respect and sort of adoration for the work he'd done, quite often they'd name one of their sons after him. So that's how the name came into the family line.
Fair enough. And I don't know where I got my name from. I probably should know that. I I I do know I'm in Portland, Maine. I do know. I never knew this until like a couple months ago. My dad told me that I think the original Carrigans that came to the United States were here in this city. And I think I
Okay.
there's a real I never knew that. I'm from New Hampshire. I always thought that we were just kind of from the same kind of mountain town forever. And I don't know, came from Ireland. I guess I'd never dug deeper, but I guess they're in Portland. And there's actually a steeple that I can see. On the fifth floor of a church that's like 200 years old. I think my ancestors went to. So I do find some poetic beauty and just the same kind of just it's nothing new under the sun. Sure, technology's changed and I'm doing a podcast, but I'm sure there was some dude that looked like me 200 years ago just stomping around Portland, angry that it's cold, yelling at everyone. And you don't know what it's like. You don't know the burden of the Irish people. So, I mean, I don't know, nothing new under the sun. But to kind of just pivot from, and guys, if you go in the description, you can find his book in the description. If to just kind of spin off of what we were talking about earlier, the idea of baggage in itself of a term, conspiracy theory, controlled opposition, limited hangout. Um, what do you think of, I mean, I'd really say the kind of the biggest topic, and I know you kind of had proposed topics, but just to hijack it entirely,
Yeah.
do you think do you think Elon Musk is a force for good? Not that either you or I have the definitive answer, not that it really matters what we think anyway, but in the kind of in the spirit of critical thinking, I'm
Yeah.
always skeptical when, much like Trump, half the country hates him and half the country loves him, or half the world, whatever.
Yeah.
I personally like him. I would love to accomplish shit like that one day. But, at that rarefied air level of hundreds of billions of dollars of wealth, of government contracts, specifically intelligence contracts, the NRO, the
Yeah.
National Geospatial Agency, putting, satellites up in orbit, Starlink, when you're, taking over Twitter, something that we know was just infiltrated through and through by the intelligence agencies. You
Yeah.
always you have to, like we were saying beforehand, you have to I don't know that term doesn't suspend disbelief. You have to suspend any preconceived notions of fuck that guy, he's evil, or that guy's our savior. You have to go, hey, let's back up and let's look at it. Weird for everybody listening, before we start recording, we're talking about 9/11, and it's like, even if you didn't know what 9/11 was, you just woke up from a coma today. If you just knew what the end result was, right? 20-year occupation in two oil-rich nations full of opium as well, you'd have to go, hey, what caused it, right? If it's nothing else, if the occupation is we go and take over an island in the middle of Pacific, sure, maybe a little more innocuous, but something like that you have to look at. So I'm gonna shut up and kind of just what are your thoughts on that? Is he a force for good? Is he a force for evil? Is there any point in even discussing this? Will we know? Is it not even interesting? Should I just shut up?
No, I think the interesting bit you've brought up there and is super important is you're referencing the term splitting. So I often say that when you're dealing with someone, the mind tends to like to choose a side. It chooses either A or it chooses B when you're given a choice. And I often say the preposition changes the proposition because often A and B have a much better explanation of what's going on than A or B. So is Elon good or bad? Isn't even in some ways the right question, although it's a valid one. It's like, well, on what point are we talking? Because it does appear to be that I think they want to swing the pendulum back a bit. So let's bring in Elon and make him look like the good guy. Certainly, what he's done with Twitter/X by getting rid of all the censorship, well, some of the censorship, shall we say, is good, but it's still not a full free speech platform, as you know, because you're banned from it.
Yeah.
So, you know, this whole idea that suddenly we've got this platform that's totally free speech. I mean, the only one I'm aware of that's really that way is Gab, you know, that Andrew Torba set up. But coming back to the point of this, is it A or is it B? Quite often it's both. I mean, the big red flag with me, with Elon, a couple of things. A is the whole let's put a brain chip in your head.
Yeah.
And the transhumanist thing, which is absolutely where the psychopaths want to take us. And also the other big red flag, I mean, he's running around with like his Project Mars t-shirt, but there's, Occupy Mars. But there was a book written by Werner von Braun in the 50s, I think, called Project Mars, in which he said the leaders of Mars would be called the Elon. Don't worry, that's just a coincidence.
Werner von Braun said that.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, oh, come on, this is just, you know, because we know these people work intergenerationally. They're not thinking 5 years ahead; they're thinking lifetimes ahead.
Yeah.
And you know, and particularly with that, it's like, so it's just a coincidence that Elon Musk happens to be the dude who's trying to get to Mars. So the other thing I would say as well, I've seen a meme running around in the last few days is, you know, the X logo for Twitter now. Someone's taken a zoom in of, you know, the square and the compass from the Freemasonic logo.
Mm-hmm.
If you zoom in, there's a fatter part and a thinner part that crosses over, is exactly the same pretty much as the X logo. So now, does it mean to say he's all bad and all good? No, everyone's a mixture of both at some stage. But I do think it's pretty much a setup of, okay, let's put someone forward to bring in all the skeptics and, I think this is the guy who's going to save you. And as we know, and I think you've mentioned before, the only person who's going to save us is ourselves.
Yeah, and then, I mean, this is what I saw not that long ago, and what is it? It's if you take the Space Force, not like the official patch,
Yeah.
but if you take the logo, I guess I can't even. Maybe I should find it before I start fucking talking out of my ass. Maybe I should have had this prepared. I've never. That is one common theme I have with this show is no preparing. But somebody took the hat, and if you like turn the hat upside down, it's the fucking face of Baphomet, like with the horns, and you're like, what the fuck? But I mean, you know.
Yeah, but you're not going to say you're surprised, are you, at this stage of
No,
the
no.
game?
But as someone that taught myself graphic design over 5 years before I started the podcast, you know, on one part, I'm like, that's not a coincidence. You put shit in intentionally. On the other hand, I'm like, let's say you were like, hey, Tommy, can you make me a hat for whatever, my
Yeah,
sports team, and I made you a logo. I could put in some like fucking Pizzagate Nambla, you know, pedophile symbol and hide it in there. And just because you bought it doesn't necessarily mean that you condone it, right? So on the other hand, I'm like, well, it's also, you know, he's running multiple transnational billion-dollar corporations. It's also possible that something got slipped in there and he went X beautiful, and somebody zooms in on and he goes, there's a Masonic, then he goes, oh well fucking, you know. So I also have to
sure.
kind of, you know, suspend that.
Yeah,
But no, I think you're correct. It's not either. It's and or. And it is possible that this is just, you know, you get to the highest level. I've had people that think I'm like some of the doctors I interview. I've had people, grown men, point out that there are mysterious things around me starting this podcast. Me, I'm 33. I started this podcast in 2019, living above my parents' garage,
yeah,
right? Fucking overweight, hating the world, working at a liquor store. And the same work ethic that got me into medical school, the same work ethic that has kind of propelled me in everything I've ever done in my life, has allowed me to build what I've built now.
yeah,
And what no one else sees is no one else sees the got into medical school right after I graduated college. My older brother committed suicide. I fucking just went downhill. Started doing a ton of drugs, gained a ton of weight, became
yeah,
suicidal myself, moved home with my parents, lived with them for 5 years in my late 20s. Told the story a million times in the podcast, doesn't matter. The point
yeah,
is slowly kind of clawed out of it, therapy, sobriety, whatever, kind of really learning to just be a human again and building this podcast. And this podcast in many ways has pulled me out of the depths of the worst times of my life. It's reinstilled work ethic, right? Can't do an interview if you haven't slept well. So no, you can't stay up all hours of the night. Gotta go to the gym, gotta be awake, right? You gotta be well read, even if we're not talking about a book in particular. You gotta be up to date on the news. You gotta understand history. You gotta be at
yeah.
your bet, right? You got clean clothes, shave, which to anyone else may sound goofy, but anyone that's experienced depression knows that those are all hurdles. And so I look at this and it's been so monumental in my life. And I'm so proud of it. Every episode I do, I'm proud of. And I'm just like, this is the fucking, I'm doing it. And then someone else just sees an episode where I'm interviewing, say, Dr. Ken Albeck, the former head of the Soviet Union bioweapon program, defected to the United States in 1991. I've had him on several times. I hunted him down. I read his book. I found where he lived. I found the company he worked for. I, you know, went through a chain of a bunch of like defunct phone numbers, found a secretary that was in like the adjacent apartment, played phone tag with her for like 6 months, finally got him on. I had a great interview. But then I'll
Cool.
see people pointed out and be like, so this guy Tommy comes out of nowhere, starts a podcast, and he's interviewing bioweapons experts. You sure
Hmm.
this isn't controlled opposition? And in my mind, I'm like, I want to throttle your fucking neck. Do you know I have put my heart and soul and like just behind the camera, you know, a picture of my brother and I have his, you know, funeral card. And it's like, you know, it's just like a reminder of like what where I came from. And then I see that and I'm like, I want to fucking kill you. Is it is it naive or is it at the very least human to maybe think, you know, is Elon watching this episode right now and he's like, these two these two Irish pigs don't understand what it takes to, you know, build a spacefaring corporation. So I guess the whole rambling in is you're now getting a crash course in the style of interview I do, which is just totally scatterbrained. I have to wonder, you know, is this just you and I? It's someone that doesn't see my entire life story. They just see an interview. And I have the only interview with this guy for the last like 20 years because I guess I'm the only one that tried. And then they make a
Okay.
snap
So,
judgment.
there's a
Yeah.
couple of things there.
Yeah,
So,
I'll shut
number
up. I
one,
rambled.
jumping back to your trauma. I love Gabor Mate's quote on this one. He said, with anyone who's got an addiction or depression, everything like that, he said, we're asking the wrong question. We keep asking what's wrong with you. We should be asking what happened to you.
Hmm.
And it's nearly always as an event or a trauma
Yeah.
that leads to that set of behaviors. So it's what happened. And actually, there's some interesting stuff now on removing trauma from the body without doing the cognitive behavioral therapy stuff, because that tends to just repeat the pathways, you know. So I think there's acupuncture as well, the 7 Dragon Point protocol. There's constellation stuff, which is because the idea is sometimes trauma gets stored in the body, not in the head, and you can get it out physically. So just an aside.
Hmm.
And reference like wanting to punch the guy in the face, you know,
Yeah.
because of that. It's like, look, it's just the world we live in. You're
Yeah.
gonna get trolled. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I've had reviews on my book. I mean, I've had some amazing ones, but I've also had 1-star reviews from people who clearly haven't even touched the book.
Yeah.
You know, they come on
Yeah.
as XXX, not verified purchase, and they make a whole straw man argument about what the book's about, and go, but I didn't even, it's not even in there. I didn't even say any of that. But,
Yeah.
you know, that's what happens.
Feargus called me a fat loser. You're like, what? I didn't say shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not fat. My mom loves me. You're like, dude, you're projecting.
And I think once you get your head around that, you just go. I always find indifference is way more powerful than anger.
Mm,
It's like,
yeah.
but
No,
I think you're just joking. You're probably the same. It's
yeah.
like, okay.
There's nothing to do. There is nothing to do about it. You go, this guy's opinion means nothing. Ignore it. What do I?
Exactly.
And if you're really jumping on, I'm not a Fed. I'm not going. That kind of makes you look like a Fed, right? It's
Yeah,
there's really
totally.
nothing
Yeah.
to do but laugh and move forward.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were saying beforehand, you do have to have a healthy skepticism of everyone, and
Yeah.
well,
You
that
do.
also means everyone must have that towards me, right? So maybe I should shut up. But yeah,
But
I
you
don't.
also said as well when I saw your round table with Dave Collum, James Howard Kunstler, and Tom Logano, and yeah, leaning into your yeah, just leaning into it. Let's put it that way.
The Nazi one.
Yeah,
Oh, that one was fucking great, dude. That was so much fun. Yeah,
I
let's
could
lean
see
in.
some of
Let.
the I could see some of the guys cringing. You know,
Oh, I know
who's
that, but that's
starting that
that's how I
one.
know I'm doing the job correctly. They
Yeah,
come
and then
on
I
and
saw you almost cringe as Dave went on a roll.
oh yeah, no, but that's the way to go. Is I love having them on. They're like my unholy trio. But if they're gonna lean in and be that unholy, we've done several of those. Well, then you got to earn the title. You can't just
Yeah,
be
yeah,
we're the edgy guys. I'm gonna come in there and start. It's all tongue in cheek, obviously. But yeah, you
yeah.
got to lean in and be like, listen, fucking hail Hitler. They're like, oh, what? And it just lean in, make them uncomfortable.
Yeah, the
And
paperclip comment was great.
yeah,
You know,
and
okay, just accept our roots.
what's kind of funny is that all happens before even like Israel Hamas. That's like one more thing I could have thrown in there now and be like, and by the way, like Jews aren't allowed to go do this. Like that's I'm kind of upset that Hamas did it after my Nazi rant. It would have been a lot better if it had been prior. I could have really tied it in there to the lean in.
Well, one of the quotes I always use when I'm giving talks now is Dave Collins from, I think he's year in review, was it 22, maybe 21, I can't remember, but it's that you psychopathic lying sacks of shit. You have maimed or killed an unknown number of gullible victims with your lockdowns, vaccines, remdesivir, and suppression of ivermectin. Goes on to say, you should all hang from your necks until dead. I will piss on your graves. And that's the problem with Dave. He tends to sit on the fence.
He doesn't lean in. He doesn't tell you how he really
Yeah.
feels. Even
You
that
need,
statement,
I
it's
think you need
wishy-washy.
to, yeah, I think you need to
It's
give him a training course on how to lean in a bit harder.
it's wishy-washy. Dave won't put his foot down. Even there,
Yeah,
hang till you're dead. What did he mean by that?
yeah.
But that is kind of the case. And then, in terms of, I guess, self-reflection and really always trying to be critical of ourselves is, I don't know, I look back at something like in 2013, it's my final year in college, or maybe in 2012 when it happened. the whole like Jade Helm conspiracy that, Obama was opening the FEMA camps and there are all these
Yeah.
pictures of trains and FEMA camps and the barbed wire is
Mm.
facing inwards and the National Guards and everyone's, oh fuck. And then it's like it's been almost 11 years and it's like, yeah, nothing happened. Obama left
Yeah.
office. Trump came in. There's under Trump that actually the lockdown started, you know.
Yeah.
It just kind of keeps trickling on. Another part of me, it's like the real conspiracy might be that nothing's happening. And I don't mean to stick my head in the sand so much as yes, there is a very slow encroachment, a generational encroachment, chipping away at civil liberties and creating a global technocratic fascist police state.
Yeah.
But it as bad as it is, there's almost how do I word this? There's almost an ego narcissism to it that it's happening in my lifetime. Not the Nazis, not World War One, not the Civil War, not the Renaissance, not the Dark Age. No, fuck all that. Now, not the fucking pyramids of ancient Egypt. Now, in my life, it's all coming to a head. Isn't that kind of convenient? Doesn't that sound a little, I guess, what solipsism? Solipsism. I'm the only entity in the universe. And it's not that I don't think any of this it's provably happening,
Of course.
but it seems a lot more like there isn't a big tidal wave coming. Maybe the ocean levels are rising, but it's going to be over like millions of years and it's slowly going to take over islands. There's not going to be some cinematic, 100-story tidal wave that comes and takes you out. And you might say, like, oh, good, it's not happening. And as bad as it is like, is it good? Did we want something dramatic to happen in our lives? It might be that nothing's happening at all. Does that make any
Well,
sense? Am I,
no,
am I, am
nothing
I?
happening at all. I think it's probably a bit pushing it,
No,
given
no,
what's
sure,
going.
no, sure. But what I mean is like,
Well, what I do think they've got is, I think there's within the truth movement, there's certainly like addiction to doom porn.
yeah,
The whole like, I mean, there's some people who are I mean, how they're still alive, I'm not sure, not from what they're saying, but from the stress levels they're permanently under, because
yes.
every day is like this huge crisis, which I think is what you were touching on slightly.
I think you're pointing out more than it's any day now. Trump's going to jail. It's like, guys, Donald Trump's not going to jail. Hillary Clinton's not going to jail. George Bush and Dick Cheney aren't going to jail. It's not that I don't think that they shouldn't be. I do. They're all war
Yeah.
criminals, but it's not happening. It's just it's just not happening. And at the same time, the National Guard and a bunch of tanks aren't rolling down the street. It's it is happening, but it's not in this sensational manner. It's the reality is a lot of us do leave exceedingly mundane lives. And that's fine. But I do think we grab you're right, it's not just fantasy. Today I'm gonna win the lottery. Today it's the inverse, right? It's the absolute value, +5 or -5. The absolute value is still 5. We want we want a giant jump from the norm. It's you didn't win the lottery today, but it also 9/11 didn't happen today. It's it almost robs us of like the drama of our own lives. And it doesn't mean that shit isn't happening. Again, it provably is. But it's maybe not in this gigantic here it all is. And I think that's maybe what then gets a lot of people turned off is they look into a couple things and they go, well, Trump didn't go to jail and they didn't roll out the National Guard or we're not in permanent lockdown. So therefore nothing's happening. But what they don't want to do is look at it's like, no, it's actually very, very unsexy. It's like losing weight or building muscle. Yeah, no, it's a very long, as someone that's been working out for 20 years, man, it's a long, like unexciting path. It's just a little, you gain a little bit of every once in a while you can increase the dumbbell by 5 pound, five
Well, yeah,
pounds.
but be careful what you wish for because I do think we're in the fog of war. I think Max Egan called it correctly in 2020 when he said that World War III has already started, but people can't work out what it is because it's not nation state against nation state. It's the governments of the world against the people of the world. Now, the problem is obviously we know the governments are puppeted. So, but you can't have something like the last 4 years and say nothing's happening
Correct.
with all the vaccines and everything, So,
They are clearly, but it's like what you said, in the quote you sent me about like how we will take the United States, right?
oh yeah, that's from Alexander Trachtenberg.
Trachtenberg, yeah.
Shall I give it a shout out? I've got
Yeah,
it
do it.
here.
Yeah, yeah, read it. Yeah.
So this was a speech at a social event during the National Convention of Communist Parties in Madison Square Garden in 1944. He said the following: "When we get ready to take the United States, we will not take it under the labels of communism. We will not take it under the label of socialism. These labels are unpleasant to the American people and have been speared too much. We will take the United States under the labels that we have made very lovable. We will take it under liberalism, under progressivism, and under democracy, but take it we will." And of course, all that just follows on from the Tavistock and Frankfurt
Hmm.
School, the cultural Marxism, and the so-called Long March through the institutions. So, I mean, this is a very long played out game.
And so I think that's maybe the point I'm trying to get to, that I'm clearly not doing a good job at enunciating, is it is happening, right? And it's not just, there are a million quotes like that, right? We won't
Yeah.
conquer the United States, they'll raise the flag, themselves, or we I don't need to convince you of communism, I'll convince your kids, or on and right 100-year marathon, the China. It is all happening.
So you're saying it's a bit more like woodworm.
Explain that.
Well, woodworm just eats away at your rafters slowly, and then suddenly one day the whole thing collapses.
Correct. That's exactly what it is.
Hmm.
And you don't have that adrenaline rush of the buildings coming down. It's happening, but it's not absent. It's a very slow thing.
Yeah, it's
And
insidious.
to the person that maybe doesn't have all the time in the world to do this, they've got a job, they've got a kid, they got to go get groceries.
Hmm?
If you see Japan attacking Pearl Harbor, it's very, we got to get up. It's the war effort. We got to go beat the fucking Nazis. Let's go get it. Right. It's very bang. It's in your face. Let's go. Versus like, no, this isn't. It's a very slow process. But because it's not gigantic and in your face and explosions and marching armies, it's easy, at least for me, at least, maybe I'm projecting. It's easy to just go, well, it's not happening at all. Well, that's not the case. It's a very unsexy truth.
Well, I think there's a lot of people who don't want to know the truth as well. I mean,
Yeah.
this is it's like I don't want to look at this or entertain it as being true because then maybe my conscience kicks in and I've got to do something about it. So better to pretend it's not really happening. So you've got the other side of that as well.
Have you ever heard of I never know how to pronounce it. Have you ever heard of I think it's Roko, Roko, Roko's basilisk? It's
I
it's
don't
like
think I have.
it's like an AI hypothesis, and it's
Okay.
that it's uh it's that a super intelligent AI will take over the world one day, and it will be malevolent. And what it will do is it will kill everyone that tries to stop it,
Hmm.
and it will also go back and use the entire digital database of all every moment that's been captured, and let's just say the last 100 years, and it will go back and using its god tier intelligence, it will find everyone who, once they learned about its inevitability that it will take over, it's not it's not just that it kills those who tried to stop its takeover. If you found out about it and didn't try to facilitate it, you're an enemy. And so once you
Oh.
know about it, and which I've now fucked you, you now know about it, right? It's I'm already fucked because I found out about it years ago and I haven't tried to help it, so I'm already done.
Thanks, Tommy. Do I owe you any money for this privilege?
No, you're dead too. Actually, I should probably pay
Okay,
you.
right.
I've now killed you. Everyone listening has now been fucked, right? I've now ruined you. It's like, right, but once you know about it, if you don't actively help it, it will find you in 2050, 2080. They'll go, hey, hey man, you remember when you did that interview back in 2023? Yeah, well, you before that moment you could have pled ignorance, but not anymore. Why didn't you help me? And it will just kill you, right? And I think that's kind of the conscious, right? You don't want to know. If it turns out that there is depopulation,
Right.
or it
Yeah.
turns out that there is a long march through the institutions, which again, it provably is happening. Yeah, if it turns out there is a controlled demolition of, the Western nation state, or replacement theory, or dissolving borders, or whatever, normalizing hyper-normalization, deconstructing the nuclear family. Once you know it's real, there is a crisis of consciousness where it's, well, now I can't plead ignorance if I know that they're, you know, trying to normalize pedophilia, or if I know that they're trying to normalize no knock search warrants at 2 a.m. and I no
Yeah.
longer, at the very least, speak up in opposition of it,
Yeah.
I'm complicit. Which, it's even that's kind of like a catch 22. By knowing, by actively ignoring it because you don't want to become aware of that, you're already aware of it. So it's already over.
That's
But
true.
I think that's a big part of it, is what you're saying, is you don't, if you acknowledge that it's real, you're now guilty.
But spurring off from that slightly, a couple of things
Yeah.
I'd say. Both courage and cowardice are contagious.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the important points to get through, because I think I sent you that 5x5 matrix, didn't I,
Hmm.
in terms of the framework of how you can frame when tyranny comes to town, all the different groups are in there. Is it worth just stepping into that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, no, I have it up to 5x5 matrix, and then yeah, the 8 general principles they use: exclusivity, opacity, reductionism, central. Yeah, go into it.
Um, so yeah, so first of all, I have to give props to James Lindsay from New Discourses, because I picked this up from him. He also references Charles Eisenstein and René Girard. So I've just tweaked it a little bit, but I think it's worth speaking about for two reasons. A, it's true, but B, it gives a great setup into what I normally try and help people with, is how to communicate the truth to people without alienating them. So there's like 5 hurdles, one communication trap, and a set of solutions. But before we get to that, there's this table, which down the left-hand side, so we have the different groups. They are the ringleaders, the strivers, the normies, the doubters, and the rebels. Now, obviously, it's simplified, but it's like any framework, it's there to help you better understand the nature of the problem. We then got 5 columns across the top. They are a description of each of those groups, the tools for control, what they're lacking, what their motivations are, and how you flip them. So if we start at the top left-hand corner with the ringleaders, basically they're responsible for the agenda, pushing the agenda and the narrative. The strivers down below them, well, they just want to be on top. So they're not bothered which way the political wind's going, as long as they've got their snouts in the trough. What Catherine Austin Fitts would perhaps refer to as the piggies, as long as I'm winning today, I don't care. Then come the normies. They're just mystified and confused about what's going on. The doubters, well, they're skeptical, but they don't really want to put their heads above the parapet. And then at the bottom, you've got the rebels, which we're calling the bullshit detectors, and the people who are willing to speak out. So what tools of control are used against those 5 groups? So at the top with the ringleaders, generally it's blackmail, which we can perhaps go into a little bit separately, and also they're told they're part of the inner circle. Now, nearly everyone who's told who's part of the inner circle isn't actually in the inner circle, but
No.
it's a brilliant way of getting everyone to comply and think, oh yeah, I'm special and I'm going to look
You're on the
after.
inside.
No,
Yeah.
you're not, but
Yeah.
there you go. But that's a way of controlling them. The strivers, well, they're basically incentivized. The tools of control are incentives and threats. So it's a carrot and stick model. So if we take some examples from the last 4 years, the doctors would be a great example of the strivers. They probably got money for injecting people and got threatened with losing their job if they spoke out. You can probably put most politicians into that group as well. The normies, well, they're controlled through propaganda and the media. The doubters, they're actually controlled by the demonization and ridicule of the rebels. So they see someone pop their head above the parapet, get it smashed down, and then go, okay, I don't want that to be me. And this is often what you get with extreme punishment of people who do speak out. It's not so much there to punish the individual, which is true on one level, but more important, they consider, is it's to stop anyone else putting their head above the parapet. Then for the rebels, because you can't really control them, you're into things like censorship, cancellation, and in the worst cases, elimination. So back to the top, and the ringleaders, this is a column of what they're lacking. So the ringleaders are lacking humanity and empathy. The strivers are lacking morality. The normies are lacking information. The doubters are lacking courage. And the rebels are lacking fear. Again, the rebels category is more complicated than that, but we'll leave it at that for the moment. So what are their motivations? The ringleaders, they're after power and control over others. The strivers are motivated by money and social status. The normies, generally, they're motivated by the status quo. They don't want anything to change. They just want to go along to get along, and that'll do nicely, thank you. The doubters, they're motivated by fear, and the rebels are generally motivated by truth and ethics. So we get to the interesting bit now, which is how do you flip them? Because the idea is if you're going to overturn a tyranny, you need to cascade as many people down from each of those groups into the rebel group. And if the rebel group becomes large enough, then generally the whole thing collapses. So the hardest ones to flip are probably the ringleaders, because, probably the best way of doing that is to obtain the blackmail material being used against them. If you can, then, you've got the power. Strivers, the best thing with them is really to show them what's coming down the pipe. Yeah, you might be winning today, but what if that means that your children are going to be living under a tyrannical regime in a few years' time? Is that what you want? Also, probably even more powerful is to explain the term the useful idiot to them. Because what you tend to find in history is the useful idiots are the ones that get shot first. And as far as the ringleaders are concerned, the strivers are the useful idiots. So just for anyone who's not familiar with the term, I've got a definition here, which is a reference to a person perceived as propagandizing for a cause, particularly a bad cause originating from a devious, ruthless source, without fully comprehending the cause's goals and who is cynically being used by the cause's leaders. So then we get to the biggest group, which is the normies. How do you flip them? Well, if they're missing information, what they need is the truth. But the important bit here isn't giving them the evidence. It's how you communicate that truth is whether you can get through to them or not. And we can perhaps move on to that. The doubters, well, if they're motivated by fear, you could just scare them to death, give them more fear than the government's giving. Not that easy, but possible, particularly if they realise that their life is on the line. And then for the rebels, you don't need to flip them because they already know how to flip. So the point is, how do you cascade those people down? What's the most efficient way of doing it? And part of the reason for writing the book, 180 Degrees, was I viewed that big group, the normies, were the group to really target, even though the book's also aimed at those that are already awake, because it gives the tools to those individuals on how to communicate the truth without alienating them. So, yeah, any comments before I maybe pile into how to do that?
I was gonna say about the rebels. You often have to wonder how authentic their driving belief is. It's like, do you like punk rock, or are you just like a teenager who doesn't want to be told what to do? Right? I went to private Catholic school for 12 years. You weren't allowed to have long hair. So naturally I had my hair as long as I was allowed to have it, right up to my
Yeah.
eyebrows, right up to the ears, right up to the collar, right?
Yeah.
Second I got to college and nobody told me how long my hair had to be. I cut it this short and it's been this short for 15 years, right? So did I really like long hair? No, I just liked holding up a middle finger. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Versus, who knows? Maybe you truly love long hair, and the second you get to college, you grow it down to your ass, and you got a beautiful mane. All right. So, on one hand, I would like to think that I'm rebelling for the right reasons. I think what they're doing is criminal. I think it's inherently inhuman. I think it's cowardice. I think they're a bunch of pussies, and I despise that with every fiber of who I am. But, you know, do you maybe just like, is it almost a form of inverted ringleader? Do you wanna Are you trying to take over so that do you like being your own rebel
Oh,
ringleader? Hey, you
okay,
know
Tommy.
what?
So you've hit the nail on the head
Fuck the
because,
government, but I head Al Qaeda. So I'm a big
yeah,
fish in a little
yeah,
pond, right? And now
yeah.
I'm a
No,
ringleader.
no, you're absolutely right. So I think in the wider explanation is within that group, the rebels, they say you've also got the radicals, but you've also got the potential new ringleaders.
Yeah.
You can get rid of the old ones and suddenly up pop some other ones, and they've got a different agenda, but they still want to persecute
And it
everyone.
doesn't necessarily mean that they're like government agents there to co-opt
No,
the
no.
movement. It could just, well, because eventually you have to deconstruct, well, how did the ringleaders get there now? Well, go
Yeah.
back far enough, man, and they're the rebels. They were they're the guy,
Mm.
not always, not always.
Maybe. I mean, I think at the moment, one of the ways most of them get there is allowing themselves to be compromised. And this is where the blackmail stuff comes in.
Sure.
And I think this is, I mean, I've got some quotes here. There was Jennifer Arcuri, who was the former partner of Boris Johnson. And she said, "You can believe me now or find out later. That man Boris was blackmailed and compromised before he entered office."
Yeah, I believe that.
Then there's Ken Livingstone in 2012 said, "I was raising in Parliament against Mrs. Thatcher, the Kincora Boys Home, where the boys were being abused, and MI5 was filming it because they're hoping to be able to blackmail senior politicians." Over the pond to you, Ted Gunderson, former head of the FBI LA division, said, "Why doesn't someone investigate the international child kidnapping ring being operated by the CIA?" And Ronald Bernard, the whistleblower banker insider, said, "I was invited to participate in sacrifices abroad. That was the breaking point, children." So
Seen that one.
I'd say, with that, unless you have a blackmail and psychopath mitigation strategy, I don't think you have a strategy.
Yeah, it is, and it's people always do kind of their eyes gloss over when you start mentioning like children or sacrifice. And hey, man, Franklin Scandal by Nick Bryant.
Yeah,
You read that book. You want a dry, a non-fantastic. It's not Pizzagate. It's as real as it gets. It's political blackmail, and they go into. I've interviewed people that break up child trafficking rings. Former special forces guy.
yeah,
They'll look you dead in the eye and just, as sure as my name's Tommy, they'll be like, no, satanic sacrifice is real. Whether or not people are believing in the occult, some of them do. They're like, it's blackmail. It's more powerful than a standing army. You have a video of someone, excuse my French, fucking a kid to death. That's a lot more powerful than, say, I don't know, 100,000 man army at the edge of the city, right? It's
yeah.
That's as
And
real as it gets.
that was a quote from Lynn Wood that I put in the book as well. It was up for 2 days before it got taken down, I think. But
Hmm.
it's exactly what he's talking about. He said, I believe a multitude of powerful individuals worldwide are being blackmailed in a horrendous scheme involving the rape and murder of children captured on videotape. I
Yeah.
have the key to the files containing the videos. I've also shared this information. The blackmail targets are approached with a gun, a child, and a camera. The target is ordered to rape the child on video. The target is then ordered to shoot the child on video. The target is then owned and controlled by the blackmailers until the blackmail evidence loses its value. I have no idea of the extent of the blackmailing scheme and raping and killing of children, but given the number of agencies involved, as already mentioned, the hundreds of thousands of missing children, I think there's 100,000 a year going missing in the US currently, and the otherwise inexplicable actions of many powerful officials, celebrities, and business leaders, I fear the worst. So at some point, this has to come front and center because, the whole idea we're living in a democracy whilst this is going on is like some kind of bad joke.
And you also have to understand it. You have to understand that this isn't just crazy batshit. You really do have to look at it in terms of, I hate to say it, but you have to look at it in terms of like of logic, in terms of power projection, right? Why is,
Mm-hmm.
why was World War One so different? Well, you have tanks, you have, planes that with guns on them. Why was World War Two different? Why did we bring back the Nazis? Why were rockets so important? Well, it's power projection. You no longer need planes that get shot down. You just need one rocket. You can't hit it. It goes higher, faster. Then you put a nuclear weapon on it. Why are spy satellites so important? It's power projection. Why is surveillance so important? And in terms of looking at the most efficient way, in World War One, they were still early on. The cavalry was still horses. Very quickly realized the horses were just getting mowed down by machine guns, right? So you start
Yeah.
strapping metal to treads and calling it a tank. How long until the most efficient method is like, hey, we don't need that's all you don't need this giant military industrial complex. That's all you're working harder, not smarter. You just need an island with a temple on it, and we'll have our boy Epstein bring him down. And you see
Yep.
that guy over there? Hey, you don't need to take over India. Just get the prime minister fucking a kid. More powerful than any weapon. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand it. And just because you understand it, that doesn't make you a bad person now. Like I always say, I get things. I get why this is happening. It doesn't mean I agree with it, but I understand it. You have to understand it. So when you look at it from that point of view, it's not as although I do believe real evil exists, and I think a lot of these people are deranged and occultists, you don't have to believe that. You don't have to believe, oh, it's they're washing themselves in blood on a new moon wearing deer antlers. Sure, that's gonna you're gonna lose a lot of people.
Yeah,
So look,
so one of the points I make when it comes to explaining how to communicate the truth, one of the key points is people slide from A to Z, they don't jump from A to Z. So if you're talking to someone who's thinks the government's telling them the truth, they're at A. If you're talking about this, they're going to look at you like you got three heads. So part of the challenge is for you to understand who it is you're speaking to, what their values are, and where they are on that line.
I just not to laugh at during such a serious topic, but it is sometimes it's kind of funny. It's 1 o'clock now. You and I met each other roughly an hour ago. It's like, what's up, man? Happy to have you. And it's just an hour later. And it's like, so they're covered in blood on a new moon, sacrificing a child to Moloch. And it's just without missing a beat, you're like, yeah. It's just like how quickly we just accelerated to Mach 5. It's just like sometimes you're like, yeah, this is odd, right? You do get right
Yeah,
into it. Um,
apologies. Yeah.
no, I don't care. This is great. I do this every episode. I have to go pee. So you're gonna take over the show and you're gonna tell everyone where to find the book, and I'll be right back.
Okay, so the book is called 180 Degrees. So I've got it here. Unlearn the lies you've been taught to believe. So the reason for writing it was I could see we weren't just being lied about the small things, but the big things. and not just some things, but pretty much everything. So it's multifaceted. It covers a whole load of different topics. But one of the key things is the essence of the book is if we can show how people are being manipulated, they're less likely to be thus manipulated in the future. So if you're struggling with how to communicate the truth to others about alienating, there's about 10 points in there of how to do that at the end of chapter 4. It's a large book. It's 800 pages, but it's an easy read, despite some of the content perhaps being a bit uncomfortable. There's a story involving someone who came to one of my talks and said, "Oh, I've got a story for you." I said, "Okay, go on." He said, "I've already read and already bought and read your book." I said, "Okay, thanks very much." He said, "Yeah, I gave it to my friend's son, who was a teenage son who's doesn't read books." I went, okay, I wonder how that's going to go. So he said, "Yeah, I passed it over. The kid took one look at it and said, 'What the F am I going to do with that?' And the guy said, 'Oh, just read the prologue and see how you go.'" Anyway, the teenage boy who doesn't read books finished the book in 2 weeks flat. So I probably won't get a better compliment than that. So you can either get it off Amazon, US, or I think it's in 15 countries now. And you can also get it direct from myself. So the Amazon is the print-on-demand paper book. I have the hardbacks. I will give you an email address for anyone who wants to contact me directly. Not sure I can guarantee getting them out across the pond before Christmas. But if you're interested in the hardback, you can email me at fergusgreenwood@protonmail.com. That's the Irish spelling of Feargus, Feargus, Greenwood, Greenwood @protonmail.com, and I'd be happy to hear from you. I think that's everything you need to know. Yeah, I think maybe just also add that if you've got a few normie mates, or you're struggling to get the information across to them, you can just leave a book lying around. I've just heard a couple of stories. One from someone who said, they did that with one of their family members. He was totally asleep, read it, and said, "That book was nuclear. It's completely changed my worldview." I've also had someone who couldn't have a conversation with their brother for the last 3 years without it turning into a mass argument within about 2 minutes of starting. After his brother read the book, then they've been able to have a conversation for 2 or 3 hours without it breaking down into a slanging match. So hopefully that shows you some of the power of it.
Feargus breaking up the nuclear family. He's a government agent. That's the 5D chess of this book.
I'm not breaking up the family. I'm
breaking up the nuclear family.
Together.
Arguments. No one's allowed to have fun anymore. You got CIA written all over you. But yeah, so back before I guess I completely derailed this, talking about back to rebels and ringleaders. Are rebels actually rebels? Are they ringleaders? But back to, you were talking about the kind of how to funnel them down into that zone. How does that happen?
Yeah. Well, I think we've covered how to funnel them down, but what we hadn't done was gone into more detail about how to communicate the truth to others without alienating them. So I gave you one of the solutions, but we haven't actually mentioned some of the problems. And they tend to be things like, as Walter Lippmann said in Public Opinion in 1921, we do not see and then define, we define first and then see. What does he mean? Is we basically decide on a story and then run around to find the evidence to confirm what we already think, not go and look at the evidence first and then make our minds up. It's one of the reasons why the media has the power, because they're getting the story in first, which also links into things like the Mark Twain. I don't think he actually said it, but he gets it attributed to him a lot, which is it's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. So once they're in that position, it's much harder to get them out of the position it was to put them there in the first place. We also have to accept that some people will be unreachable. The best example of this was provided by Yuri Bezmenov, who was the ex-KGB defector, who was interviewed by G. Edward Griffin in 1984. And his quote was, "A person who is demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell him nothing. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, even with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him a concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it." So you've just got to accept that I don't know what the percentage is, 5, 10, 20% are not reachable. So just write them off, because you can just focus on the other 80%. Probably one of the biggest challenges is something called the backfire effect. So we think, so me and Tom are having a conversation here. What we're hoping is going on is he's listening to me, maybe weighing this up and adjust his position. I'm listening to him doing the same. Well, when you're talking to people with strongly held beliefs, that's not how it works. If their beliefs are challenged in any way, their beliefs come stronger. It solidifies their position when you challenge them. This is one of the key things the truth movement sort of missed, but you can get around it. And yeah, there's another one where people will forgive you for being wrong, but generally won't forgive you for being right.
Ram Dass said the fundamentalist becomes more radical as their faith wavers.
Right. Okay.
Triple down, quadruple down.
Yeah. So there's basically the communication trap, which probably most of us have fallen into, including my good self, which is you learn the truth, get angry at being lied to, which also inflame the truth tellers' need to be right. Communicate that truth while still being annoyed at being duped in an unconsidered way, triggering the backfire effect. Then you become more frustrated that you haven't managed to get the message through. So try again, try bigger, try harder, and fail even more. So that's what our reference is, the communication trap. So I say the truth movement doesn't have an evidence problem, it has a communication problem. So how do you get round those hurdles? Because they're not insignificant. So there's a few things. One we touched on with the idea people slide from A to Z, they don't jump there. But there's some other things like be kind first, be right later. So it's the analogy I give here is like it's like picking up a traumatized puppy from a rescue home. You're not going to go in there and try and teach it a new trick immediately. You're trying to basically win its trust through empathy, compassion, maybe even feed it. The same works for the human variety. Next one is probably the most important, reference that backfire effect. You win by not winning. So if your aim is to convince the other person of your position, you've already lost before you open your mouth. Let me repeat that. If you're trying to convince the other person of your position, you've already lost before you've opened your mouth because you've got the wrong objective.
Remove the ego. It's not your position. You're trying to convey truth. It's not me. It's not right. What's the quote? Great things can happen if no one's concerned about who gets credit.
Yes.
This isn't me. I don't get paid by big ivermectin. I'm interviewing these doctors because I think something wrong is going on.
So the point is to not have that as your objective. A good objective could be just to try to get that person to ask you a question.
Hmm.
because asking a question means they're engaged, because you can't
Ah,
give solutions to people not asking
get them to
questions.
ask a question. I like that.
And a question opens the mind, a statement tends to close it.
Hmm.
There's mental process going on when you're asking a question, like, oh, okay, now I've got to think about it. So the other important factor with this is, so you need to seed, not succeed. So seeding an idea is a bit like planting an apple pip in your garden at night and then expecting to see the fully grown tree in the morning. It's not going to happen. So why are you expecting that person to change their position overnight? They won't. What you're missing is they need absorption and processing time.
Hmm.
And if, so I've had situations where I've managed to turn someone round by not saying anything. Someone said to me, they said, oh, I said, well, I think that's the truth of the matter. He said, that's your truth, not the truth. Oh, okay. So I realized at that point the finger had come out, the body language super negative. That's it. So the ego should have responded. And I didn't say anything. Yep, nothing. And we moved on. 2 months later, I'm asking him to read the manuscript, and it was the point was referenced 9/11, I think. I said, well, I know you sort of believe the official story, so, and I don't want to be preaching to the choir, so I'd appreciate if you'd take a look, because I know you still believe the official story. He said, I might change my mind on that. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
okay. So by the ego winning, I think what's happened there is saying, well, maybe I've sort of gone in a bit too hard there, and maybe I'm going to go and look at a couple of things for myself. And that's one of the other secrets. People need to discover some of this stuff for themselves, and certainly not have it force fed to them. So there's a little quote from I got off the internet, because it's a really, so I call this whole process the trim tab experiment. The trim tab is a Buckminster Fuller reference. It's for when you get a super tanker, you have a big rudder and then you have the tiny rudder within that rudder. And he said, how you move the super tanker is, first of all, the tiny rudder moves, then it moves the big rudder, and then the whole ship turns round.
Hmm.
And he said, every individual can be a trim tab. So this was one example, a couple of sentences of how to do it. This guy said, everyone needs to stop trying to red pill people who are in a coma. I've been pink pilling people. I take one small truth and show it to them. Then let them think about that. Then they will start asking questions. Then I will show them another, and it is working. And I know I've given these techniques to people who are having no luck at all. And as soon as they apply them, they said their success rate went exponential.
Hmm.
So my whole view was how the battle here really is the many versus the money. They have the money and the media. We have the numbers. So the question then becomes, how do you leverage those numbers in a meaningful way? And that's very easy through a bit of simple maths and geometric progression. So I think all this can be done by word of mouth. Obviously, podcasts like yourself sort of multiply that effect. But if everyone, say you had 35 people in a room, Tommy, that you were talking to, and each of those people were prepared to go and have a conversation with someone else. The problem is, one person talking to one person, talking to one person, you've got to have 7 billion steps to get to everyone in the world, and the chain's going to break. So it doesn't work. But what if you had two conversations, and then they had two conversations, and they had two conversations? Instead of 7 to 8 billion steps, you're down to about 33 steps. If you're willing to have three conversations on that basis, it drops to 21. And if you're willing to have 10 conversations, you can get everyone in the world in just 10 steps. So, for example, if we took a room of 35 people, it's 7 steps to get to everyone in the USA. So you start with 35 multiplied by 10, That's
350
350
million.
step one, yeah, and so on. You get to 350 million in 7 steps. So people always say, well, what can I do? I'm just one person. And my answer is everything. If you're willing to have those 10 conversations and give people the tools of how to communicate the truth to others so they're not falling into that communication trap. And I think that's how, within literally months, if people are willing to do it, you could really multiply that knowledge and spread the truth.
Hmm. There's a an important point in there, and it's something I've kind of not always done, but for a while is don't put people on the spot. Don't don't try to have an I got you moment. Often
Mm-hmm.
say something along the lines of don't answer me because by answering me, if you're incorrect or if you have to change your position, that requires some admitting of being wrong or some admitting of me being right. And then we get into the whole ego and now you're tied into other stuff about, well, I don't like Tommy. He was mean to me in high school. It's like, well, that has nothing to do with 9/11, but we're all tied into that. So I always tell people just answer it in your head. Don't answer it out loud. You don't need to go have a conversation with a family member. Just ask yourself this, you know, what do you really think X and Y? Why did that equal Z? And just something like even just that, just removing the ego, right? It's like if something would I remember when we were little, I forget what it was. I think it was like it was in like it's like middle school or something. Like somebody stole like a toy from like, first grade or something. And instead of the teacher yelling at everyone open your backpacks, it was more of like, I'm gonna put this whatever basket in the closet. And by the end of
Yeah,
the week, I would like to see the toy back in the closet. And sure enough,
yeah,
it was there.
yeah,
And you can't do that forever. Eventually, you justice and repercussions. I get that. But in terms of just that first baby step, and you do have to treat it like this because I mean, this shit is traumatizing. If you slowly kind of just come to, it's like, yeah, work sucks and get older and bills but man, it's kind of a big thing to be like, wait, the world's run by genocidal demons. Like that's a big, right? That's a big step. And then naturally you do reject those who try to tell you it. So instead you just have to, don't answer out loud. You don't have to, I'm wrong, you are right. No, remove all the ego stuff. You don't have to tell me. I don't care. But just, what do you really think? X, Y, and Z. Just ask yourself that. And in the privacy of in the shower by yourself, just ask, why did that happen? Logically, why do I think that happened? And like you don't need to tell anyone. It's not confession. You don't have to go to the priest and be like, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. None of that shit. But just ask yourself. And at the very least, maybe stop propagating something that you now feel is incorrect. You don't have to come out and be like, actually, I've been watching this show with Tommy. You don't have to do that. But maybe just don't be a link in the chain of bullshit. Don't
yeah.
pass something along that you go, yeah, I don't know if that's true, you know? And just little tiny steps like that. And I think that's and the real big thing is I want to go back to the point you said of don't convince anyone you're right. Remove that entire I got it. I've got the no. Remove Tommy. Remove fear. Remove I. It's a very Zen almost practice. It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to
Yeah.
do with nothing to do with you. It's just move the truth forward. I don't think Copernicus wasn't working for the American Empire. He was just like, hey man, I think the sun's the center of the universe or the center of the solar system, right? And people can there is a sixth sense. People can detect when you're selling something or when you're just trying to, push the truth forward. Like, hey man, it's like the doctor. Hey dude, you're gonna do whatever you're gonna do, but I'm telling you right now, if you keep smoking and eating Big Macs, you're not gonna live to see your kids get married. Just is what it is. I don't really care if you listen to me. I hope you do. but my life's going to keep going on regardless. I'm going to enjoy Christmas all the same, whether or not you have a heart attack. That kind of gets to people. They can tell when you're not, hey man, you got to stop eating this food. You're gonna have a heart attack, but you can buy this pill from me. Well, the bullshit detector goes up versus like, hey man, I have nothing to gain from you reading about, I don't know, the Project for a New American Century written right before 9/11 about how a cataclysmic event in downtown Manhattan would help facilitate the U.S. empire's goals in the world. I don't get anything from that. But, look it up. PNAC, the Project for a New American Century. All right, just there's a little nugget. Just slide that out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what you're doing there, you're empathizing with the person, so there's the
Sure.
kindness, and you're giving them one tiny truth that maybe they can go and discover some stuff for themselves. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you apply these techniques, they will work. But as someone said to me, well, what's at A and what's at Z? I said, well, people's A is going to change depending on who they are and what their interests are.
Mm.
You know, A could be for someone in the banking industry, CBDCs, whereas A for a nurse might be the vaccine. So it's up to you as an individual to go, okay, I think as Jonathan Haidt said, was it Jonathan Haidt? Or someone said, you shouldn't offer any evidence until you've actually worked out who you're talking to, what their values are, and what all the triggers are, or
Mm.
some of them, so that you can then frame whatever is there in a way that they would find appealing.
I think there's also, an important point to what is the point of any of it? Why push them along? You could say, well, hey man, it's objectively the right thing to do. People are being harmed by this. Some people don't care though, right? I mean, I would like to think I'm a good person. I have an iPhone. I've never protested against slave labor in China. I don't like slave labor, but I mean, in all honesty, how much do I really care? I have an iPhone. I never do interviews about it. Do I really care? You could argue that maybe I don't. Maybe it's out of sight, out of mind, right? So that doesn't really work with everyone, just based on my own experiences. I don't think slave labor is good, but I have an iMac and an iPhone and an iPad. Where are my interviews about Foxconn and Uyghur Muslims, right? There's your point. So
Mhm.
we have to go one step beyond that and be like, so then what is the purpose? Why would I even bother red pilling? What do I care? My TV works, my phone works. I can go jerk off. I have hot water in my shower. I can eat food. I have a warm bed. What do I care? What do I care? And so to that, I would say there is a piece, kind of like the Roko's basilisk, but an inverse of that. There is a piece and feeling deep down, as confusing and overwhelming as all of reality is, and what it is, and why are we here, and why are we on this planet around a star, and what is consciousness, and what does anything exist, and beyond all of that, there's a piece in that I believe I'm doing the right thing, and there's also a dissipation or diffusion of anxiety that comes with growing confidence. Your feet feel planted on the ground. And you go, you know what, man, no, like that's bullshit. I think this is what's going on. You don't have to like me. You start to, we both wear glasses. It's like when your vision starts to come into focus, when the doctor's flipping the thing and you go, there, I can read that now. You feel a little more confident in reading. You're not ZAFW. No, you go, yeah, I see ZAFW2Z1. Like, you feel more confident. So what's the point of doing any of it? What's the point of red pilling or pink pilling? Why give a shit? Well, it's the right thing to do. Well, that might not be enough for people. So what's the selfish reason?
To stop
Pete,
you getting a jackboot in your face.
that might not even matter. What do I care? That's not today. So I would say, what's the here and now? A peace and a confidence that genuinely it's better than getting drunk's fun, having sex is great. There's a peace and a confidence that the only way I can explain it is, yeah, like when you get glasses that work and you go, ah, there we go. It's not a euphoric dump, but there's just like a oh, this is better.
And maybe there's something here from the book called Political Ponerology, which was the study of evil. It was a Polish guy. They tried to get it out and failed twice, managed to surreptitiously get a third copy. They'd had to personally trash it twice to stop them being captured. This was under the Soviet regime. And one of the findings there was the fact that, they said, we actually thought there was some good in everyone. And we learned to our cost that wasn't the case. But what they also found was by facing the truth, I think they had less of this floating anxiety and were better able to deal with the situation. So that's maybe coming back to your point on the peace thing as well. It's like when people don't understand what's happening to them, there's this permanent anxiety state that comes in. It's like, oh, now I know what's really going on. We're run by a bunch of fucking possessed psychopaths who are just trying to child traffic everyone and put us under a tyrannical regime. It's like, okay, now I understand the problem. Without recognition, there can be no resolution. And for you to have recognition, you need to base it on the truth. Because, truth is built on a foundation of rock, lies on a foundation of sand. So there's some attributes as well, which maybe we can finish off with, which is just lies versus the truth. The truth tends to be, the lies are quick, the truth is slow. So there's a saying that truth lives a wretched life, but always survives the lie. You also find that truth is an exponential function. So it does nothing for a long time and then does everything all at once. So to anyone who's, in the battle and trying to push the truth out there, don't lose heart. You may be having a lot more effect than you think you're going to, and, having. So I think there's just as how you communicate as well. I don't think you can usurp the natural order of lies versus truth. Lies are quick, the truth is slow. So we've just got to keep with the flywheel, keep grinding on, and eventually that has a massive effect.
Yeah, it kind of comes back full circle.
Yeah.
It's not sexy. It's not dramatic. It's not cinematic. Just a slow, how do I get muscle? Just go to the gym every day. All right? Yeah, you just wake up and yawn and go, fuck, I don't want to do this. And you go down there and you start doing push-up and it's not fun and it sucks. Do you feel good after? Sometimes. Like, it's like, what? And it's like, yeah, but you keep at it for a long time and yeah, you go, all right. All right.
Yeah.
And
And the other good thing with the truth, it's a one-way valve. No one who's come onto our side is going back.
a very good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, you don't go through all of this and then be like, yeah, it is crazy how Lee Harvey shot JFK. It's like, no, 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 no. You start questioning right? You question truly everything. There is no you can't go back. Yeah. That's a great point. Um yeah, so I mean, I don't know. That's maybe to wrap it up. That is the takeaway. I would say if the biggest takeaway for anyone listening, I would say is, at least for me, the most important kind of method or learning in all of this is it's not that I'm right and they're wrong. It's just the advancement of truth. Remove the ego. I'm gonna own the enemy. I'm gonna show them I'm right. No, no, no. Because now you're using hatred of them and glorification of you. Remove that. And that's difficult. But if you can remove that and you still, you know, think it's important enough to push forward, then it's a good thing to push forward. If it's not for you, all right? What's the society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they won't sit under. Right?
Very good.
Just do the right thing. And also, I mean, it's also like, and then you can kind of get to like, it's also they're just fucking pedophiles. Like that's also bad. But you can get to that. That's step two, right? You just go, yeah, they're evil. They're actual demons on earth. But you can move forward from there. Um,
Well, if you want to talk about spiritual war and entity possession and everything else, that's maybe one for another discussion.
dude, I'd say let's pin it on that. I would love to do that. I will grab your book. I will read it as I, as I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I would like to do that, actually go through your book and kind of go all in, and I would absolutely love to do that spiritual possession, and that's the step two. That's the second semester. It's like, all right, so you get everything's fucked. All right. Why is it fucked? Right? And that's I think that would be a good point. Feargus, closing thoughts, and I'll message you and we'll schedule another one. But closing thoughts, how do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, just I think just to repeat what you said really is you know, just be kind to people when they're communicating. Not easy, but you can do it, particularly with a bit of practice. And that we're in a war. That war is psychological, it's biological, and it's spiritual. And if you're not fighting it on all three planes, you're not going to win. But we win this by the slow grind out, I think. There's people on the inside as well throwing spanners in the works with this. And I think from my view is that, the dark forces, shall we put them, have had their time and they're out of time. And what we're really seeing now is the revelation of what's going on, because it's been going on a long time. And I think there's other forces going to come into play which are going to be irresistible. And I think we win in the end.
I I think we do too, and it also helps to, when you look back at like some black and white photo of your grandpa, and you're like, man, they really just fucking grabbed their nuts and went and fought World War II. You're like, how the? I'm like, I'm fucking upset when my air conditioner doesn't work, and you're like, how did they do it? You know, how did they do it? And one, I think that you have to remember, like, yeah, they were terrified, but at a certain point, the evil is so undeniable that if you're worth your weight in anything, you'll be like, we have to fight this, right? So act away now that you want your great grandkids to be looking at a picture of you in 100 years and be like, that motherfucker had some nuts, dude. Like, just like you do die. Like, be a legend. And that doesn't mean some grandiose, like, oh, I'm gonna go and fucking, no, not, but just, be a boss. When you just look back at like a picture of your grandpa, it's like, here's a picture of my great uncle. And it's like just got back from World War II. He's like 19. He's like in a spiffy suit, and he's literally on D-Day on 18. And then just like came home and like, raised a family and grandkids and great grandkids, just lived like a pillar of the community. And you're just like, what a fucking alpha male. And you're just like,
Mhm.
be that. Just be that.
We often say with people who show courage, it's not that they're scared, not that they're not scared, it's the fact they do it anyway despite being scared.
Yeah. Because it's not courageous if you're not scared out of your fucking mind. Right. 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 I've done
Probably not.
almost
No.
1,400 of these episodes. It's not courageous. They're second nature now.
Yeah.
But to someone who's never done a podcast before, if you come on, yeah, you're showing some courage. You're a little nervous. You're like, fuck, I've never been on camera before. Like, that's courage, right? I don't have courage. I've just done this a million times. But that's what it is. It's just you just be that, man. Just step up and just own it. And maybe it's why they're so, and well, this will be the next conversation, but maybe it's why they're so obsessed with transhumanism and, the elixir of the fountain of youth is our weapon is the thing that's good for us is bad for them, and it's that you do die, and you can't prove there's a God. I personally believe there is. You can't prove or disprove one, but which means it might be real. How how do you want to go into the next? Let's say maybe it's nothingness after this, and your clinical brain death is the end. Maybe, I don't know. I'm humble enough to say I don't know, but maybe not. What do what
So
do you
we
want to do?
need to talk next time Jerry Mazinski,
Okay.
loosh harvesting,
Yeah, the
entity
negative energy. Yeah.
possession, and a few things like that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I think is where this really becomes interesting in terms of hierarchical control.
yeah, yeah. I'm not willing to. We were joking the other night to do a video game stream. We were joking the other night, and we were like, maybe there is no afterlife, but it was like an hour after Henry Kissinger died, and we're like, theoretically, he might be burning in hell in a lake of fire and getting fucked in the ass by a demon right now. Theoretically, there's a non-0% chance. And we're like, that is something you have to take in consideration, right? It's like it might all be real. I mean, maybe we're not accurate. Maybe it's an all-loving God and there's nothing you can do to abandon his love. Maybe you are getting fucked in the ass by Satan himself. Like that is that is a variable on the broad board of like possibilities. Like
And if you're only giving me two options and I had to place all my money on one,
I'm
I'd
a
go for
fucking I'm gonna fucking hedge my bets and be like, you know what?
yeah.
I'm gonna avoid the Prince of Darkness at all costs, and maybe there is no heaven. What's the downside? All right, I lived a good life. Whatever. Eh, I'm gonna hedge my bet. Yeah, Russian roulette. Like, yeah, dog. That's a big if. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe HW, maybe Kissinger, maybe they had a good time. I don't know. Maybe not. So that's kind of that's
There
kind of where
was
I.
a story floating around. I don't know if it was true. Just before George H.W. Bush died, he was crying, knowing what was coming down the pipe to him.
Hmm. Yeah,
But who knows?
if you've ever there are a few times where I've gotten shit faced the night before a podcast, probably less than five, and that's a bad time. The next day, you're fucking out of it. Drink a bunch of coffee, and then you have a panic attack during the podcast. It's not a good time. You only need to do it a couple times before you go. As much as I'd like to get drunk tonight, I know it's coming tomorrow, and I'm not on board with that. So I'm just gonna not have the drink tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I look at it. Hey man, it might be easier to be willingly compromised, go to Epstein's Island. Sure, you can maybe have a penthouse in New York and Paris and be part of the military industrial corporate elite. All right, it's probably a fun time for a couple decades. Probably run the world, go have your private island, private jet. I don't doubt it's fun. How bad's that hangover though? And I'm just like,
If the hangover involves having sold your soul, that's probably worse than
probably a
just
bit
missing
worse than a
out.
couple fucking tumblers of whiskey. I would go out on a limb and say it's probably
Mind
a
you, I've never been out on a night with you, Tommy, so maybe it isn't.
yeah, fucking me and Feargus hang out one night and you're like, dude, it's so I'd much rather burn in hell. It's yeah,
Yeah.
there's a reason why I'm confident in just like living the life I have now is because I turned the work ethic to exercise and get into med school and build a podcast goes both ways. When I have fun, I put in the work and I make sure I have more fun than anyone in 100 miles. So, ups and downs. I don't know, but
Right.
um,
Work hard, play hard.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Shoot me a message and I'll make sure to check it after this and we'll schedule another one. Probably I'm only doing shows next week and then I'm wrapping it up for the year. So it'll probably be like next month or something. But I'd love to grab the book. I'd love to read it. I'd love to go into the spiritual warfare aspect of all of it. And yeah, man, I enjoyed talking to you. That was fun. I
Yeah, and
appreciate
to
it.
you, Tommy. Thanks
I
for the invite.
yeah, and gotta ask. So, do you have a biology background? I mean, the anatomy on the left hand, you got like what looks like an organic chemistry model, and then behind you is a frame picture of a brain, and on
Yeah,
the right it
no,
looks like old apothecary shit.
I did a degree in maths, so nothing to do with chemistry. That was just a load of random stuff either I was given or picked up along the way in the 90s, I think.
All right.
The model, I think, came via my girlfriend at the time from New York. She nicknamed him Tall Paul. So
This is all symbolism. This is actually
yeah,
symbolic.
of course it is. Yeah,
Here goes.
it's a very secret society I'm running in this
It's can
house.
it's listen, guys. I'm letting you in on the inside. You'll notice the body. It's cut open. That's symbolic of cannibalism. What's the
Hey,
organic chemistry model? That's adrenochrome. What's the hand? It's the hand over the eye. Behind them,
hey,
the
wait,
brain.
wait till I move the hand. It gets worse.
Oh God. Do you have a giant dong?
No,
Oh
he's
God,
got
he's a
his dick
eunuch.
chopped off. He's gone
He's
trans.
trans. See? You can't fucking trust him. You see what happened? I got sucked in by his charm. 90 minutes in, and at the very end, he lets you know he was on the inside the whole time.
Yeah, revelation
Cannibalism,
of method. I'm just telling you how I did it now.
he's now gloating. He's now basking in the dopamine rush of having duped me. Look behind him, the brain. It's as old as you bastard. You bastard. You can't
I
trust
know.
anyone. You
You said it at the beginning of the podcast. You should have listened to yourself, Tommy.
you should have. Hey guys, I'm sorry, but I'm on the inside. What we do? What's the one hand met? What's the fucking? That's the. I've got to interview Roseanne Barr twice, and
All right.
she's like, you know, some people think I'm in the Illuminati because there's like some photo shoot of her in the 90s, and she like does like the hand over the eye and does like the pyramid, and
Mhm.
she's like, I was so hungover at that photo shoot, and the photographer was just some young person. They're like, this is hip, everyone's doing it. So I was like, what do I know? So I did the fucking thing. She's like, sometimes you're just listening to the photog. So sometimes it is just that, but I don't know. Maybe me doing that is now someone's gonna grab that thumbnail as we talk about
But the
cannibalism.
great thing is, Tommy, you don't care.
I don't give a shit. It truly means nothing to me.
And this is the way to live your life. What was it? There's a phrase something like, um, you shouldn't care about what others think about you whilst deeply caring about them.
I like the Dr. Seuss one. Those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter.
Mhm.
Your parents and your brothers. My two brothers are pretty polar opposite of me politically, but they love me just the same. We text each other every day, and we enjoy the holidays all the same. It's because they matter. They really
Yeah,
don't care. The people that care don't fucking matter. They
yeah.
don't fucking matter. All right. The guy,
Another good one.
yeah, it's a guy fucking choking himself and jerking off. He's a fucking Nazi. I'm like, listen, man, if that gets you off, go for it, buddy. Ain't my cup of tea. Um, on that note, talking about jerking off and choking ourselves, shoot me a, shoot me a message and let's schedule the next one sometime in January. And let me just make sure I have it in the description. I do have the link to your book. Yep, correct. 180 degrees on learning the lies you've been taught to believe. And I'm banned, as I told you. Do you have a Twitter? Are you on Twitter?
I'm on nothing.
All right. I was gonna say I was gonna post that, but you've been preemptively banned like me, I suppose. So I don't know. Um, Feargus, it was a honor meeting you, bud. Shoot me a
Yeah.
message. Let's do another one in January. Guys, please go grab the book and thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Oh, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it and enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Well, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in January.
Cool.
All right, brother. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for watching.